I think would be optimal to do is to just track like the so for example, as of this most recent bar close on the weekly, it's likely to primarily keep pushing lower at the downside. It's like for the push to become for like participants to trade in, to give participants the room relative to weekly time durations to trade in the fashion what would suggest the weekly time frame chart perspectives at and push to the downside, comprised of weekly time durations consecutively pushing to the downside, measuring that intent to trade over weekly time durations, will be coming to an end. Because as of this spot, like, look at the angle, it's just not set up in a fashion that would suggest the push is done pushing, the way participants have traded like and dictated the way it's set up. So what you could do is like, because like you could mark up the weekly open, right, like this. Let's see if I've got it. Yeah, I do. Okay, yeah. So you wouldn't want it like thick or whatever, the line. And like what you could, because like obviously because of how, like, I mean, first of all, look, so this is like the previous at and push from this high to this high, and then this is like the overall push, meaning like the overall push. It's like it's kind of, this is experience defo, but like the overall push, like if I, right, I'll just mark up in my head what what I would define as the overall pushes relative to the weekly. So it'd be like that, but I would probably switch this lower there. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it, really? So then, so like this at and push is the overall 2, but it's as of now the at and push, right? Because like for example, if like I mean, for this put, like I said, for this push to become structured off the fashion that would be off the sort that of a push that was done pushing, participants have to trade in that way to facilitate that, and you cannot be sure of that. And as of this most recent bar close, dealing with the facts, it's likely to just keep pushing lower, right? But if they did do that, and then like over this weekly bar, like it's probably going to close somewhat like this. It might, like, if it closes like that, we're still not done. But anyway, let's just say it impulses lower, just continuation, and then you have a bar that like initially comes off from having pushed into the downside. You maybe have another bar that wicks the low, like just 2 seconds. Yeah, like another bar that wicks the low, and then you've got like a very impulsive bar, and then okay, this push is likely to be done pushing. This would be the overall push. You might have like an at-hand push here. Yeah, it's a short-term one, but like I mean, you've got like a short-term one here-ish. Or maybe another better example would be here. So you got this push to the upside, and then it became done, this trend, as of this bar close, the way this bar closed amongst existing structure of the at-hand push, how it was already structured, and then it pushed lower, and then like this became done here, likely being done based if next step lower time frames backed it up, because it did have a wick rejection as of a high at the highest region of like where this push had recently became done relative to daily weekly time periods, but presumably based on how this weekly bot trade, like the next step lower time frames would have been set up okay. But anyway, you get the gist. Like this will end up probably becoming the overall push. But as of now, it's the overall and Atan, but because it's the Atan, I refer to it as that. Anyway, because it's so overextended and it's been so many weekly time periods primarily pushing to the downside, this is an exception where it's like it comes off pushing to the downside and immediately resumes. Like, look, there's been like no amount of bars in between where this push is likely done, so I've just counted it. So in my head, I would just count this as it's still in play, the trend. But then, like, because it's so overextended already, yes, its angle and trajectory and the way it's structured at this region, showing how participants are indeed, like, how the facts of how participants are willing to trade the underlying products market at these, whilst it's situated at these prices based on how they've already been doing so. It's still set up off the sort that would suggest the participants are not done pushing to the downside, not done with trading the underlying products market in the fashion that facilitates the push keep continuing to the downside yet in this point in time. but because it's so extended and sat at the lows, you could expect a wick like this, literally as this, right? And what you can do is just to be aware of on lower time frames is where that weekly open is set up. You know, like you keep aware of the weekly open. So for example, if you just drop to the 1 hour, it's just the dictatory time frame, aka the time frame that like hang on. Yeah, aka the time frame that will look at how would be most optimal for it to set up, like to go on side with the most probable direction that's poised to prevail over the intraday time period. Bloody hell, I completely subconsciously said that. I didn't even realise. There we go, that's a good sign. But like, so you could expect off the bat for the market to form its top side wick. So you're just basically being aware of the anatomy, basically. So it's like if then, for example, the 8 hour here start to set up nice too, and the 1 hour start to set up nice to potentially go lower, this could be the point which the wick is created. That, from what we know here, it's just context though, because like even like it doesn't really matter about that. It's just context, because then if like the market comes down and then it's about here, we could still be pushing to the upside first, before, and we might not even go to the downside, you know. But just relative to the weekly, how it's set up, like we might like it's likely to keep pushing lower relative to the weekly, but other time frames, the next step lower, could suggest that that's not likely to pan out. And then the weekly reversal could then start to emerge, which would be revealed by how next step lower time frames are set up. But anyway, you get the gist, right? It's just good to be aware of to enhance your context. So like, when we're now below the weekly up, when we've like possibly formed the high for this week, you know, and the weekly time period chart perspective is at and push and play is set to primarily push to the downside, and it's already set up bearish like on the daily too, and the 12 hour and the 8 and the 4 were set up nice today, and even the 1, and which it still is, as I mentioned in the previous part of this section. Like, it now makes sense to primarily push lower, but that could change, because it's all based on how each bar closes. Because if the daily then, like if this daily bar then closes bullish, which it has time to do so, it's likely to not do so based on the most recent bar close, amongst its existing setup state and how next step higher time frames are set up simultaneously, whilst the daily set up the way it is as of its most recent bar close. But it could, like, it's always dealing with the now. There's no point me waffling on about like the future, because that would be the now. It's all about dealing with how the market's set up as of now, relative to each time period's bar close as of now. But like, it just kind of makes sense. I kind of explain it well, that articulate, or transcribe it very well. But like it, like, you know, because the weekly is so overextended, right? And it's sat right at the very lows. Yeah, it's likely to keep pushing lower, but it still could form a topside wick, which actually was my stop loss. Literally the exact high. I know I'm going to probably keep saying that forever, but yeah, I remember this week. My stop loss was the high of the week. Anyway, I mean, I only go for a 1-1, but like, so I'm not like, oh, I'm missing out on a colossal trend, no. But yeah, it's just a bit of a bummer. And then I also missed the GU trade. But yeah, you know, like, it's just good to be aware of where you are within the weekly open, because if the weekly is likely to primarily push lower, but likely to in its anatomy, when it's forming in its anatomy, meaning its topside wick, you can be aware of that by having the weekly open and price marked up. But anyway, what I was gonna say and go on about is, for example, right, if you don't, like, I don't see why you can't enter trades like this, because I didn't, right? But I was like, hang on a sec. I was looking at the 15-minute, and I was like, well, if your direction's bearish, right, and, you know, you still do the same principles, like, but, like, right, so first of all, this is like, so, like, oh my god. This is raw, right? This ain't like scripted or whatever. This is the first time I've ever thought about this, and I just thought I'd record it so I can look back at some point in later life. But the way I trade is I do all my analysis on all the time frames like I've just been doing. Exactly like that, right? And then I'll drop to the 1 hour and see how it is set up as of 7 in the morning, which would be as of this most recent bar close. All you would be seeing is this. That's why I always emulate real time. So you would just be seeing this. Now, I'm just going to pause this video a sec and continue in a sec.